Welcome back to another edition of the LFG podcast. Leanne, what episode is this?
Oh, 12. This is
episode 12, folks. Hey, thank you for joining us again for Unfiltered Franchise Education. We're super excited for this podcast. This time around, we have our special guest, Brian Bazely, founder of Bazely Consulting, Fractional COO and CEO. For those of you that will probably know Brian a lot better as the co-founder of Driver's Seat. He is the brother of Luke Bazely. Is so glad to have him on. But sorry, I completely missed introducing my co-host, Leanne.
You got so excited about Brian, you forgot about me.
Welcome back, Leanne Caruso and Michael Hyam, your hosts here of the LFG podcast. Leanne, you have something to say? Anything?
Do I have something to say? Well, I have a lot to say.
Thank you for coming back. No?
Yeah, thank you for coming back. We're excited to do another episode of LFG. And Brian, we've already recorded the Brian part, so I can confidently tell you it's a good one. So you can skip over the middle part, but make sure you get to the Brian part.
Oh my gosh. Is this why you blocked my cell number from texting you, Leanne? Is that because I put you on the spot with silliness?
Yes, you do. What have you been up to? We're about to hit fall travel season. What have you been up to? Oh my
gosh, we have it. I have honestly just been so swamped with so much work. We've got 5 franchise shows coming up, literally 2 in September, 2 in October, 1 in November. I'm like totally swamped. I've got, of course, we've got Let's Grow coming up in November, and then we've got Let's Grow USA coming up in Dallas in February. And I've been like totally swamped, but outside of work, trying to enjoy the summer a little bit, which has been nice. It's so funny here in Toronto, and I'm sure it's not the same in Florida, but it's like, you know what? Labor Day hits, we go from 85 to 69, just like that, degrees. And it's just wild. Like it literally on that, I can tell you that September 2nd, boom, it comes, the temperature goes wonky.
I wish
it's been
it did
fun.
That here.
Yeah. Summer's been great for me. And yeah, I mean, outside of that, working, and I'm doing the CFE course thing, with the fun, whatever.
You're
and
finally going to become official.
The extra, the extra 60 minutes a day I dedicate to this. It's no wonder that my wife filed for divorce last week. I'm just joking. Oh my God, I'm babbling on. Leanne, how about you? How was your week?
Oh my God, you're gonna get yourself in trouble. No, I'm good. I went to California last week to the Location 3 Google Summit. So very, very nerdy. And I got to hang on Google campus, which was unbelievable. Like, just like you could imagine a campus with 40,000 employees on it. But I got to learn directly from Google staff on AI and technology and search and YouTube and what's going on in the world of Google. And so hearing it directly from the source was very, very interesting and very cool. So thank you to Location 3 for providing that opportunity for about 80 of us in franchise marketing and franchising CEOs and stuff. So it was a great event.
So much fun. Is it true that they have those just like that shirt? Is it true they have the colorful bikes with the
They do. They have the colorful bikes that you can just grab and ride. And so of course we did. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I mean, they have like large chessboards, the life-size chessboards. They had a bowling alley. They have music rooms. I mean, heated toilet seats, heated bidets, like in every bathroom.
Heated toilet seats.
Yeah, it was wild. Yeah.
Very nice.
We pay Google way too much money.
We do indeed. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I just I saw a meme. I forget Google. I can't remember the year, and I can't even remember the company. But they tried to sell themselves. It was I think it was to Yahoo. you know,
Uh,
in 2001 or maybe 99 or something for like $1 million. And so I guess it sucks to be Yahoo. If it
yeah.
was Yahoo, I don't even remember. Anyways.
Is that how Canadians say Yahoo?
Yeah, no,
Yahoo?
Yahoo,
Yahoo?
Yahoo. Is that what you said?
Yahoo? Yahoo?
Yeah. You're a Yahoo.
No, you're a Yahoo.
But
All
yeah, I
right.
really like the shirt. That's awesome.
Thanks. Thanks. I even got a Google basketball.
Aw, nice. Very good. All right.
Anyway,
Well, let's get to it. Here's what's growing on. This segment is sponsored by Franchise Assembly, a franchise events company bringing resources and education to franchise brands and people. Leanne, tell us what is growing on.
well, Michael, I read an article on Entrepreneur where they interviewed Charles Internicola, who, if you guys don't know Charles, you should. He's a pretty smart fella. He's a top franchise attorney about the upcoming election and how it can impact franchising. And I know that we're all like very much worried or keeping our eyes on all of that. But here's some of the things that he said. I'll just point out some highlights. But he said it will have the greatest impact at the federal level and the eventual composition of the NLRB. And if the NLRB will continue to pursue the imposition of the joint employer liability rule, which we've talked about here, NLRB board members are appointed by the president, and generally Democrats are more inclined to support the imposition of joint employer, and Republicans are opposed to it. So that's one thing. And then he said, what are the most significant pieces of legislation passed in 2024 that will impact franchises? At the federal level, the Federal Trade Commission continues to examine and reevaluate potential modifications to the current version of the franchise rule, which last took effect in 2007. The FTC is focused on enhanced franchisee protections through more stringent franchise disclosure document requirements and the potential invalidation of certain franchise agreement provisions and requirements imposed on franchisees.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And then I think we talked about that a couple episodes too. At the state level, the North American Securities Administrators Association, NASA, but not NASA, has published a model franchise broker registration act that, if adopted at the state level, would introduce an entirely new level of franchise broker registration and disclosure requirements aimed at regulating broker activity. That's a big
Totally.
one. Yep. He covers
Wow.
a lot about franchise agreements, compliance, and new laws. You can find that article on entrepreneur.com.
Great. Yeah, I've heard that that broker one is it's been coming down for a long time now. A long time.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be
I
interesting
guess
to
they're
see how
trying to
that
tighten
develops.
up. Even
Mhm.
the FDD, I wonder what is it probably the financial performance indicators, or who knows?
Yeah, what they're required to report on. Yep.
To kind of yeah. Well, I got that's great. I'll tell you what I saw not on LinkedIn. Where'd you find you saw that on LinkedIn? Did you say or on Entrepreneur?
Rob,
No, not Rob.
this one, this article
Yeah,
about the law, it's on entrepreneur.com.
on Entrepreneur. Okay, yes. So, so same place where we saw Rob.
Yep.
So, Rob Lancet, our good friend of Stratus Building Solutions. If you don't know, he writes a piece for Entrepreneur. He was actually just on Forbes as well. Rob, shout out to you, my friend. We're going to talk a little bit about your ad, most recently your article that you talked about retooling your sales pitch. And so just a brief little couple of nuggets. I loved it. It's great. You know, a nice fresh take. So seek unbiased feedback. And so what we're talking about is retooling your sales pitch. And so when you talk to guys like me and someone's like, well, you know what you could do to fix your sales pitch? And I think I know everything about sales. I'm like, yeah, whatever. You're going to teach me. No, but it's so true. It is so true. You know, unbiased feedback from a friend, you know, someone in your industry, some colleague. I think that is great. Marketplace review. Examine market conditions and current level of demand among your target audience. Update your positioning if things seem off 100%. You should absolutely do that, and maybe even do that annually. Competitive analysis. Pay attention to what your direct competitors are doing. You should be doing that all the time. Upgrade your design elements. Pay attention to the visual aspects of your sales pitch. I mean, with everything changing and technology and this and that, there's a million ways of getting a hold of people and different things you can do, whether it's through, phone calls or leaving versatile messages or sending emails with audio visual components. There's a million things you can do to constantly be changing up your sales pitch. And finally, diversify your pitches, right? Here I am leading into the last point, which is multiple versions, right? Tracks and different things that you can do. I mean, you can do video inside the email and all kinds of good stuff. Rob, we love that article. Leanne, what else you got?
Yeah, actually, going back to Google, one of the things that the Google folks were saying is, with the 70 billion searches that happen every day, still the thing that stands out is your creative. So if your creative isn't good, then you need to address that. And so I think that goes back to Rob's point about like upgrade your design elements, because they're looking at other people who are pitching the same thing. And if your design and your visual aren't consistent with the rest of the brand, could be a problem. All right. So good job, Rob. Industry rivals AnyLab Now and ArcPoint Labs merged to form new holding company Cresso Brands. So that's very exciting. I did see Clarissa, the CEO of AnyLab Now, and Kelly Crumfoots, the CMO of AnyLab Now at the Google event. So it's a very exciting partnership for them. And I think that's pretty phenomenal growth opportunity.
That is. And I guess lastly, I was just thinking about your, here I'm doing hand movements. For those of you on,
Put your hands down.
Spotify, I am not doing any hand movements. I was thinking about Leanne's shirt from our last podcast that said, "Show your kitties."
Show
Kitties.
us your titties.
Show your kitties, as in cats. Yeah, because things aren't looking so great for Hooters. The brand has, and this is a while back, hired on a restructuring team. They closed out 40 plus stores and, hired on a team to fix things up and, kind of relaunch. But I don't know what's happening. Hopefully they're not headed, any lower. I mean, it's a nice, fun, family friendly brand. It's a good spot to have your beer with a couple of
They have good wings.
Some chicken wings and all that good stuff. Yeah. So anyways, moving along. If you want to share what's going on in your world and hopefully it's franchising related, then send us an email to podcast@franchiseassembly.com. Again, podcast@franchiseassembly.com, and we will share your news, hopefully good news, and hopefully Hooters turns around.
Right. All right, now we're going to talk about our franchise royals of the week. This is where we highlight people or brands who are doing great things we generally notice on LinkedIn. This segment is sponsored by Hello Mastermind, professional development peer advisory groups for franchise professionals and executives. We currently have executive franchise marketers and franchise development execs with just a few spots left. Visit hello-mastermind.com for more info. Michael, who is your franchise royal of the week?
My franchise royal deserves a shout out. And contrary to what Leanne said, how we normally find them on LinkedIn, I don't know what nonsense she's talking about. I found mine, I don't know, over a decade ago. A good buddy, a good friend, an industry colleague, somebody you guys all know. He also sits on one of the membership boards at the IFA, Ty Brewster. Ty Brewster, buddy, I hope you're listening. We love you. I'm shouting you out for a couple of things. But for those of you that don't know Ty, he also works with Locate, a real estate finding thingamabob for when you need your real estate done.
We won't put you in charge of their tagline.
Yeah, that's not their tagline. For their franchise, for your new unit. Ty has been amazing as always, and I thought of a couple things. Number one, Ty really helped us for our last conference. He went out of his way and emailed hundreds of franchise folk, letting them know about our conference.
One at
And
a time.
yes, he was instrumental in getting some butts in chairs, and we can't thank you enough for that, Ty. Um, and sorry, the reason that it all came to mind right now was because I called Ty last week and I said, Ty, what's going on? Are you jumping back in with us at Let's Grow, and are you going to be a sponsor and so on and so forth? And he was like, Michael, he goes, of course I'm going to be a sponsor, and so. He's going to come back in and give a content session. And not only did he say I'm going to be a sponsor, but he said I'm going to do another sponsorship, and I want to be on a panel as well. And so, Ty, your dedication to the franchise industry and your love amongst esteemed colleagues, and I got to say, you are the most fun guy to hang out with on the franchise show floor. Okay, I think that's enough
Wow.
about Ty. Leanne, who do you have?
My goodness. I'll make mine much shorter. And when I say we find them on LinkedIn, we don't find the people on LinkedIn. We find the news on LinkedIn.
Oh.
Jeez. And this
I said,
news just
until you
got announced.
unblock me, my text messages, I'm gonna keep.
I'm not unblocking you. All right. Wanda Williams, who, if you guys don't know who Wanda Williams is, she sits on the IFA board. She also was the one who interviewed Deion Sanders at the IFA convention last year, or earlier this year. She has just announced that she is the new COO of Nothing Bundt Cakes. I thought that was really exciting. So I'm very happy for her. I can't wait to hear all about that.
Amazing, Wanda. Congratulations. Now, before we get started on our show and tell segment, please take a moment to learn more about our sponsor, Architect. Leanne, take it away.
Architect. Managing multiple franchise locations? Meet Maestro by Architect, your ultimate business intelligence solution. Gain a centralized view of your entire network, leverage predictive analytics, and make data-driven decisions to boost productivity and profitability. Seamlessly integrate with QuickBooks and automate tasks like royalty payments. Trusted by successful franchises, Maestro transforms operations across retail, healthcare, education, and sports. Visit architect.com and take your franchise to the next level. Yeah, that's the first time I got through that without stuttering.
Congratulations.
Yay, good thing they're our annual sponsors, so we're gonna have to get that down. All right. Thank you, Architect.
That was great. All right. All right. So, time for show and tell. Our favorite segment. Well, my favorite segment. This show and tell is, of course, where our guests come and drop some phenomenal, hopefully intuitive franchise knowledge around their industry. In this case, leadership. Well, actually, our guest has a wealth of information, and we're going to get to that. So, today, we're learning from someone that has built a franchise from the ground up and now consults other franchise owners. Today, we have Brian Bazely, owner of Bazely Consulting, and a fractional CEO and COO. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks,
Please
Michael.
tell us about yourself. Give us a quick bio. Go for it.
Yeah, thanks, and listen, thanks for having me on. This is such a great podcast series, and I'm honored to be part of it. It's just so educational and so fun, and I love the momentum with it that you're gaining with it. So, yeah, I actually started my franchise portion of my career post kind of C-suite executive management, but I started as a franchisee and a master franchisor, and then years later started my own company, Driver Seat, and with my brother Luke. And over the course of 12 years, grew that out to be a large chain across Canada and the US. I've since sold that business. And so I sold controlling shares to Luke, and he's now taking over that business. And I'm spending all of my time working with other franchisors who are interested in improving their business, growing their business, and in some cases, some companies that are existing organizations but aren't franchised yet. So I'm designing the franchise architecture and helping them understand how to franchise a business, which, as the two of you know, is a little bit unique, right? It's a unique way to grow a business. So a wonderful way to do it, but a unique way to do it. So my natural passion is people. I love seeing people succeed. That's why franchising has always been so near and dear to my heart, because you're getting to be part of a journey and help people along a journey. of growing their business and becoming financially successful, but also growing, personally. And so now I get to do that with franchisors, which is just obviously at a different level, and it's just so much fun.
Amazing. Leon's going to jump into it, but I got to ask before we even jump into it, Brian, how hard was it to like let go of your baby? Building it from the ground up. Sometimes Leanne gets annoyed with me and she's like, Michael, you know what? Just take franchise assembly. I'm out. And I couldn't fathom letting go of my baby. And so just a couple of words on that.
Yeah. So, I would say I've far from let it go. Driver's seat was my third child. So just like when your children grow up and move out to do better things, it's the same thing that's happening with this business. I'm honestly, I'm very fortunate. I get to leave the business to the co-founder. I get to leave the business to, he's my brother as well. I get to leave the business to my brother. I still own a portion of the company, but he now takes over a controlling share of it. But it really came down to three things. It came down to the fact that I've spent all of my career in my executive days and then in my franchise days, really either building or course correcting and helping fix businesses. And listen, at driver's seat, the recipe works, right? Luke and I have made our mistakes. We've messed up a bunch of things. We did a whole bunch of things right. We were award winning. The franchisees are making great money. They're happy. And that recipe works. And so it actually doesn't need me anymore, right? It's not that there's not a lot of work to do, which is not the type of work I need to be doing with them, right? And so that was really one portion of it. And that was also tied to the fact that we navigated through COVID, which was extraordinarily tough for just so many brands. And in our case, I just lived and breathed what we had to do in order to move that business forward through COVID. We ended up with this incredible result in an industry that was decimated in transportation. We ended up with this incredible result of 69% revenue growth through the 2 years of COVID. So we came out actually stronger versus weaker. I felt good about that, and that wasn't all on me. That was on the franchise team. And so the business is just in good shape. It's a good time for me to do that. The second part to this is my passion is about people, and I love coming to the office every day. I'm always here early, and I just I love being part of leading that team. But this is a great time for me to help others with that part of the process. And as you know, there's just a whole bunch of franchisors out there, some of which I've mentored, who can absolutely crush it and do great things with their business, but they need some help and guidance and leadership around that side of it. And the third component was this is just a great stage of both in Luke's life and my life for me to be doing something a little bit different. For 12 years, I've come into the office every day. For 12 years, I've led a large team of people here. And I now get to go and help others in different settings and in different environments. And allow him to take the business and obviously to escalate the growth on it and continue all the work that we've been doing. So not letting go, just I'm right there beside it, right? Just,
there you go.
That's great.
Right.
That's great. What a great opportunity. And as you know, I do fractional CMO work. And so you're getting into fractional CEO and COO. And you kind of just said something about your own business that I tell people in my consulting is that I work with them for 6 to 9 months and then I work myself out of a job. And that's
Perfect.
always the goal, is to, to set them free, do their own thing. And so it sounds like that's a great gateway for you to come into these businesses and do what you did for your own business and give them that same opportunity to grow, as a franchisor. So
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I think of one example that kind of summarizes how this works. But in our business, when franchisees got to a certain revenue level, moving into the 7 digits of revenue, they moved from getting support and everyday training and coaching from the team here at the office to getting that plus me. And so then I would move it into, okay, what else do we need to do in order to build a succession plan and build a stronger strategic plan? And how do you now manage a larger team, a larger office team? Because when you started the business as a franchisee, you would have been at 0 sales, and now you're up over $1 million. And so that was part of that structure and that design. And again, now I get to work with organizations, some of which I've kind of mentored either formally or informally before, who there's one example right now. It's a 25-year-old business that's now franchising. They're operating 2 units. They're super successful. They're profitable. They got tons of revenue. I was like, hey, we want to blow this thing up. and they're going to. There's no doubt about it. And so, but me designing and architecting that franchise for them so that they can avoid the pitfalls and the 12 years of learning that I've done, and we can really hit the ground running with that side of it. It's just such an important piece, and it's so valuable, right? So that part excites me, right?
Yeah, that's great. So because you've been a franchisee, you've been a co-founder of your own franchise and CEO of your own franchising or of your own franchise, how does, like, because we're solely geared here towards franchising, right? How is franchising such a strong vehicle for you? Like, why do you think it's such a great way to grow a business?
You know, there's a superpower in franchising that not too many people actually truly think about or articulate, but the best franchisors in the business really are fixated and focused on collaboration between the franchisees, because that's actually where the magic happens, right? And so I love franchising. It's just such an incredible way to grow a business. There's all sorts of tactical or mathematical reasons why it can be strong. Things like shared resources. You know, it's a group of people spending on one website, a group of people spending on one set of technologies or softwares, et cetera. But all of that's good, and that's very helpful. But the reality is, this idea that you get to talk to other franchisees who are doing the exact same business in another city or another province, another state, what have you, it's just invaluable, because that old overused adage of rising tides raise all ships is just so true in franchising, right? There's never a time when someone thinks, oh my God, this is amazing, I just crushed it, what a month we had, and then they get on a call and realize that they're third in the chain because somebody else just did something so extraordinary, or a couple of people did, and that really helps them grow personally and professionally. So franchising's got all sorts of benefits to it. The shared resources benefit, absolutely having a business coach at your disposal, which is what a franchisor should be, and which you should always think of themselves as, is there. The collaboration is quite frankly second to none. It's exactly what should happen, especially until it becomes a larger chain with lots of brand recognition, which happens kind of as a secondary portion to what we're talking about. But that said, franchising isn't for everybody. I absolutely, I've been party to talking people off of that ledge. People that, you know, really weren't going to commit to doing this thing properly. If people think that the things like that upfront fee or the royalties, if they think that's profit based, they are sadly mistaken. It's absolutely not. It's there to build out a support network, and to supply these franchisees with all that they need to. And yes, you can profit from that side of it. But it's super important that anybody who goes into franchising actually understands they are exiting the business that they're in, and they're entering into a new business called franchising, because that's going to be up. It just happens to be tied to the industry, in our case of shuttle business, right? Or it could be tied to home moving or painting lines or pita shops or pizza or what have you. But a franchisor is now entering into a different role. And so when we built Driver's Seat, we had a very purposeful approach to how we did that. I don't know if I told you, Leanne or Michael, but we franchised that business 89 days after we launched.
Oh,
so
wow.
we had never worked in transportation before, but we actually built a franchise, and then we said, oh yeah, now what should the industry be? What should that service be? Like what should we do, right? Like, and and it's so opposite of how to do it, but I was so passionate about being in franchising that we built out what the franchise design would be, and then said, oh yeah, we probably should figure out a service or a product too. And so over the course of a year, we had these guiding principles, and we determined we're going to launch Driver's Seat. We launched it, but we were already, 75 or 80% of the way through franchising it. And so we had our first night, and Luke was the operator, and he was going to be the ops guy, was going to be on the franchisor end. And he launched it, and he started selling stuff that first night, and got business going. And then 89 days later, we franchised the first location. So,
wow.
Right. And
who was your first franchisee?
He was one of our drivers, one of our chauffeurs.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was super interesting. And so it's not for everybody. I think people have to be super passionate about working with franchisees. They have to understand the franchise industry. It's not well understood outside of the circle, as you know. And so it's really important that they understand exactly what they will be doing day in, day out, right? Because you are going to be leading people. That's what the job is, right? Yeah. My job at Driver's Seat was never about shuttle vans and transportation. That part's easy, right? It was actually about leading franchisees and motivating them to grow and to be better and to do more.
Amazing. And so you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to maybe hammer this home a little bit more from the standpoint of moving from building a franchise from the ground up, to now to your own consulting of CEO and fractional COO. What was the driving force really that made you want to go in and assist other brands? Is it from a passion standpoint? Is it that, obviously you have a wealth of understanding and being able to do that, maybe, to implement those types of things? What was the real driving force that said, hey, I'm going to move into consulting role?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, there was two driving factors to it. The first was, I knew I could make an incredible difference for a brand that's open and growing or wants to continue to grow, and just to help them with either design, architecture, strategy, and anything that they need from a standpoint of where they are along their journey. And so, because I'm so passionate about people, my waking up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning and getting so excited when a franchisee was doing great things is because I'm just so freaking excited about what they're doing and what they're doing for their family and how excited they are and their personal growth and their development. And so now I've got this absolute luxury of being able to do that with founders, or with people who bought a franchise chain, right? And so that's just so interesting to me, and I think there's so much that we can do with it. But the second part was, when I look at the number of franchise chains out there and how many struggle, and we're not talking about a small number here. Let's be very transparent, right? A majority of franchisors are not great at being a franchisor, right? They're not great at fran dev. They're not great at franchise development. They're not great at franchise support. They're really not great at operationalizing culture and understanding how you're going to lead this team and how you're going to build it out and how it's going to be sustainable. There's very little architecture done around the communication protocols, right? And how to be most effective. There's very little done around how we're going to manage all of the nuances that are people, right? Because you're talking about personalities and egos in some cases. And so I just think there's just so much potential out there in franchising, and there's some great growth happening there. But I'm seeing it every single day. I'm seeing franchisors who underestimate what the role of a franchisor actually is. And from a design and architecture perspective, they're not actually saying, okay, I'm going to purposely set up this business in such a way that I know how I'm going to communicate with people, how they're going to communicate with my team, who my next hire is going to be, right? What my role is as a franchisor. And so as a result, they end up firefighting versus firelighting a lot, right? And so I could easily name 15 brands right away that are like in this small space. The product or the service is good. There's nothing wrong with it, right? They know their stuff inside and out. They just don't understand how to grow it through franchising, but they're a franchisor.
Right. So I think that's how a lot of businesses fail, right? Do you see any other things that they do that they can fail, or is it mostly to the foundation of they're not ready for franchising or they don't understand franchise as a business?
Yeah. There's a couple of other big ones. I mean, being undercapitalized for sure. And so the first question I ask somebody who's interested in franchising is say, great, how much is it going to cost you to franchise? And do you understand where that cost would go? And have you built a budget around it? And of course, the answer is always no, because how would you know if you're not in franchising? How would you know what's the cost to do it? You typically would think about the cost of developing the FDD, right? That's just a fraction of what you need to do. You need to set up your software to multi-manage this piece of it. You need to understand what your cloud-based systems are going to be, right? Who the support network is going to be, what the marketing budget is going to be, and the list goes on. And so the financial component can be big. When we launched Driver's Seat, we decided not to take outside funding. And so in the earliest days, I funded all of it through other businesses that I owned. And that's tough. And I'm not saying that was necessarily right, because we probably could have grown even faster with some outside funding. But that's what we chose to do in order to maintain full control over the company. But I really put a lot of effort into understanding exactly what was going to cost us each quarter, each year, and how we're going to reinvest back into the business. And so I think the financial flow of that side of it, the understanding of what a franchisor needs to do, are all, big parts to all of it. Typically, not always, but typically people are getting into franchising because they have a unit or two open, or sometimes 3 or 4 or 5, and they're corporately owned and they're making money at them, right? And so they built a system. They go, okay, now I understand how to make money at this. The system works, so I'm going to franchise this business in order to grow it, right? And it is the right approach to think that way. It's really about the gap that exists from there to the point when they franchise and they start learning this stuff, thinking, man, we are missing something, right? I didn't really think about, how I was going to respond to franchisees, or how I'm going to support them, and how I'm going to design or architect that, right? Because I used to deal with employees, which are very different.
Right.
Exactly. And so in that business can be tough, right? So what would you say that you've learned on maybe of just a few points throughout your career about leadership and communication that has helped you during these tough times?
Yeah, a lot, and every day continue to learn on it. I love to be a study of people, and love to think about where I've messed up, and where we've succeeded. And so I think being vulnerable is super important. I think I'm one person as the CEO of a franchise brand. I'm not going to have all the answers. That would be unrealistic. So you have to be a little bit vulnerable, and you have to be willing to truly listen. I think understanding the psychology of a franchisee from a standpoint of what they're going through and how money or revenue will impact words that they use, tone that they will use, etc., is a really important part of that. And I learned early in my day, like a lot of people, I don't like friction, right? I prefer not to have it in my life, but it happens. It's part of what we do, and so effectively managing friction points is super important. So as a franchisor, it's so interesting. You get blamed for everything, right? It's like your revenue's down. It's your fault, or in some cases, COVID happened. It's your fault, right? And those words aren't being used, but you can kind of get the tone of it. And it's just an emotional response to what's happening in their business. And so part of this vulnerability and open communication is to making sure that you're listening to them. But I'll be very frank about this. I'm not their counselor, right? I can be that for a certain portion, but I'm there also the leader. I'm there to help them put perspective around what it is that they're doing, what they need to do. And so we've got this really incredible group of franchisees. I mean, just like passionate and just powerhouses, and they all have their own nuances, as we all do. But when I was leading them, there was a support group here led by a very talented person, and she was on top of every aspect of what was happening in their business every day. When things went a little sideways, right, I would definitely step in, and the friction was healthy friction, and the friction was things like, listen, you're getting a little bit of a reputation in this office for being abrasive or harsh, right? So how can I help you fix that? Because by 5 o'clock today, we need to fix it, right? So let's unpack this, let's understand it, et cetera. And so this aspect of leadership is really tied to being someone they can go to for sure, being someone that motivates them, absolutely, right? Being a cheerleader for them, absolutely. Building an operationalizing culture that supports them and what they do with it, but also setting parameters and boundaries around what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, right? There are franchisors out there who become a little bit of the blame person, right? And so the franchisees are blaming them when things are going sideways, and that's just not right, right? And there are others who just don't have enough empathy or care for the franchisees. It's more about what's happening on their own bottom line or top line, and again, that doesn't work. And so this incredible balance of putting people first and really understanding it, but sometimes putting people first means you just got to be straight with them, right? You can listen, you can let them cry on your shoulder for a minute, but you got to be straight with them. Interesting story. So COVID hit. I don't know. I'd never managed a business through a global health pandemic before, right? It was like, okay, now what are we going to do? And so we were considered an essential service because we were transporting people. But a lot of our business was in transporting people to the airport to go on trips and doing weddings and doing craft brewery tours. And so our business on the consumer side of things, at least, went down to zero pretty quickly. And so we came up with a 4-tier strategy to help the franchisees navigate through it. And we used this 4-tier strategy for 2 solid years, relentlessly and religiously. We just would not give up on it, and it worked very well for it. But in entering into that strategy, I allowed them 9 days to grieve. Right.
Wow.
And there was no real magic to the 9 days other than we talked about as a management team. We said, okay, well, this can't go on forever, but there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of like, no one really knows. And at that time, of course, we're like, this could go on for months, right?
Yeah.
Let alone years. And so I allowed them 9 days to grieve. And on the 10th day, for the next 365 days, I was on the phone with them every single day. Right. And It was a little bit of tough love, and it was a little bit of, hey, listen, you owe this to your family, you owe this to yourself, you owe this to your customers, right? And you can't drag this business down, right? Because of your fear. I'm fearful too. We all are, right? But you've now grieved for the last 8 days. It's the 9th day. You need to get up off the couch. You need to turn Netflix off, and we need to go out and build business. We need to support the people that are working for you, right?
That's
Get over
amazing.
it. Right?
You're bringing back a whole bunch of stuff from last night. I was on a webinar, on a CFA webinar with MSA Worldwide with Michael and Drew and Noah from Castles about legalities to starting your own franchise. And it's interesting the some of the differences between Canada and the US because I don't know a lot of the Canadian stuff. And so you are really bringing it back. Disgruntled, and correct me if I'm wrong here. I think they have up to 2 years to rescind the franchise if there's issues.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And so yeah, there's interesting part of franchise law that allows a franchisee, if you have misrepresented, and by misrepresenting, sometimes we're talking about, oh darn, that one signature was missing off of the FTD, right? So it could be a clerical error. But if you've misrepresented, then they have 2 years to rescind. And rescission is very dangerous because you not only have to give them all their money back, but you have to pay them for anything that they've invested and for lost wages. Right.
Wow.
And there's a similar portion of law, franchise law in the US that's tied to the same type of thing. And so, yeah, it's extraordinarily, I mean, you have to be in line to do that. You have to make sure that you protected your brand. You got a good franchise lawyer, that you are never purposely or by mistake misrepresenting, but also from a clerical perspective that you're doing things right.
Yeah, that's why that constant communication will really help not going through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so the interesting thing is, franchisees have invested in their own business. If you've selected the right ones, right, and you've really set expectations with them, they're passionate and motivated for what they need to do. And so what they need you for is some motivation. And when I say you, I'm talking about the leader or the founder, but they need that individual or that team of people for motivation. They need them for course correction, right? They need them to help with perspective. Sometimes as a franchisee, it is difficult to see the label from inside the bottle. And sometimes they're working, very hard on the business, and they need to just take a step out and look from the outside in. And so you can be those eyes and those ears. But then you think about the power of that, right? Because friends of mine own a company, and they've been operating for a number of years now. They don't have that. They're not in a franchise, and so they have to kind of rely on what customers are saying and what staff are saying, but they don't really know from the outside looking in. In franchising, you have that business coach every single day. It's so powerful. It's so incredibly powerful. And so the best franchisors and the ones that are truly committed to franchise success understand how to set up culture from an operational perspective. So there's a standard there, right? And that's being done almost zero of the time, because I think culture becomes a reactionary, approach to things. And they know how to set expectations, and the expectations should be crystal clear. And so there shouldn't be time wasted at trying to kind of manage things that are just not important and not going to impact their team and their revenue line.
So I have an interesting question. So we're talking about leadership and culture and all of that stuff, but you're talking also about a franchise. So tell me about operationalizing culture.
Yeah. So I've been speaking a lot about operationalizing culture, and it's a term that's not commonly used. I coined phrase a little bit, just because when you think about culture, and if you ask somebody, what is your culture? It typically comes down to a little bit of a rah-rah moment, a little bit of how they communicate, et cetera. But when you think about operationalizing culture and how important that is, and then when you take operationalized culture and you tie it to your strategy and you can actually articulate what it is, that's a game changer. And by the way, it's a game changer in any business, but in franchising, so much more important, so much more important. And so I'm going to give you an example, but there's hundreds of these. So one of them is, it's important that we respond to franchisees' needs. It's important that we give them the support that they need, and it's important that we provide them with the right information. And so you start to unpack that and say, okay, well, how do you go about doing that? Well, you're going to have good people who are responsive, et cetera, but how do you do that in such a way that there's actually a system around that mindset, right? Well, a tight communication protocol that says, here's where tickets will go. So if you have an issue with something or whatever, here's where those are going to go. Here's how you're going to use group chats. Here's how you're going to use email. And here's how we're going to use, setting up a meeting on a video meet or what have you. And here's why this is important to do that. When you're that structured around that side of it, right, all of a sudden you can provide better support for your franchisees. Because what franchisors sometimes don't realize, and what leaders sometimes don't realize, is their team are running around in circles, putting out fires, and it's like, oh, that was a super busy day. And I hate the term busy. It's like, that's a day that controls you, right? It's a super busy day, right? Well, yeah, it's busy because you didn't actually set up a good system for that. And so you can provide better service by forcing people into these strategic approaches to how they communicate with you, right? And so as an example, no franchisee was ever allowed to text me. Because how would that be possible that my phone's going off and the push notifications are coming up and I'm having, I'm out having dinner with my kids, and like that would just never work. So you use the chats for that. But in the case of one of two things, a human rights issue, which we've never had, or a vehicular accident with or without injury, you are required to text me. Right? And so as a result, I could go through a meeting for an hour, for 2 hours, and never have to worry about my phone going off and having to, worry about who was dealing with what. So that's just one example so operationalizing culture says that's good for communication, but it's actually gonna really help with culture because they know exactly what to expect, and they know to expect a certain response time on things, right? And then the second great example, this came about because I was messing some things up. So we had these really great Wednesday webinars called Shifting Gears, and we put tons of effort and we're passionate about it. And we get on these video calls and we would teach them something every Wednesday from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock Eastern Standard. And it was wonderful. And we really cared a lot. And I was walking through the office one day and just chatting with people and, getting a feel for what was happening. And I noticed a lot of people that were on the phone. It's like, what's going on here? And it turns out they're on the phone trying to make sure that franchisees were coming to the Wednesday session. And I said, well, this is a lot of labor getting tied up to this. So then I asked, they said, well, what's going on here? They said, well, yeah, because, they get busy and they don't think it's important. And so we really have to convince them to come on there, otherwise they don't have a good show. And it's like, whoa, that can never be the case. This is so not productive, right? And so we developed a program called Driver Seat Engagement Points. Driver Seat Engagement Points, the DEP program, was tied to, you will attend educational seminars and things like conferences, et cetera. You'll attend that and you'll earn points from it. And you just have to get 1,500 points, or you're going to have to pay a huge, huge amount of money, right? So we're going to help protect them from themselves in that way, right? So you're going to attend. We don't ever have to call you because you're just going to attend. And by attending, what I'm talking about is camera on time, in an office setting, and you have to engage at least once throughout the call with a question, right? And so then we had one person take attendance and assess that throughout the call versus 10 people placing phone calls trying to get them to come on the event, right? And so any monies that would have to be paid, we would never keep. That would just go back to the rest of the franchisees. That would go up to offset their conference fees.
Wow, that's
right?
cool. Yeah.
And so it took us 6 months to design and implement. We rolled it in softly over 6 months and then hard after that. But it is an absolute game changer. The game changer is we've operationalized culture. There are tons of people on those calls. They are engaged. They're professional. We've taught them something, right, around how important that side of it is, and they're learning, right? And we have a better team environment and a better team atmosphere. So some of these types of programs, and the list goes on and on with that type of thing, but that's the way that we think about operationalizing culture, and it includes conferences where we have 100% attendance.
Wow.
We set it a year in advance.
Amazing.
Right? So if you pass away, right? That might be a reason, right? That they're not going to be there. But no, in all seriousness, but if somebody were like really, really sick or something would happen, and we had one where somebody had a bit of a heart murmur, and thank God he was okay, he got the right medical attention. And so he sent his wife, who was a minority owner in the franchise, right? And she said, I can't miss this. There's no way I can miss this. I can't be the only one ever in the history of driver's seat to miss a conference. And so we have 100% attendance, right? Now, part of it is we give them a year in advance. Part of it, we set expectations on it. And part of it is, listen, you're going to buy a conference pass, $700 or $800, whatever it is. And if you can't be there, if something crazy happened, you can't be there, we will create a video for you for $2,000 to send it to you. Like, well,
That's interesting.
right? And it's like, yeah, because we want you to be there, right? And if you haven't learned all the stuff, then you can fly to the office on your own dime, and you can pay for a fee to be taught. So this whole, carrot, the carrot and the stick, that whole scenario, but this whole idea of saying, this is our expectation as a brand, right? You will be here, right? And so it stops from the erosion of that side of it. Now, can that go on forever at that level? No, but if you keep it at the 90 or 95% of that level as you grow, that's still very, very healthy.
That's great. That's good. I love that. So we're running out of time here, but before we go, Brian, one last question. You've been in franchising for so long. What do you predict is going to happen in the landscape of franchising in the next 10 years or so?
Yeah, it is absolutely nuts what we're going to see. So franchising, which has been so dominated by the QSR space, and it's been really, really wonderful for that space. That's not where it's going to stay, right? And so when we launched Driver's Seat, it was like, I don't get it. Like shuttle transport, like vans, like big vans, big orange vans driving around, and you guys, what are you franchising? Like I still don't get it, right? And we're not the only ones, right? You look at what we're doing there. You look at what John Evans is doing with his painting. It's a parking lot painting company, right? Super awesome. I mean, the list goes on and on. And so we're going to see the franchise portion of the industry continue to shift, with people understanding that this is an absolutely wonderful way to grow your business. And so this percentage of QSR to what they call non-traditional, basically, right? But this percentage of that to really what we're going to do, you're just going to see additional businesses enter into this space, right? There are two coming up. I will be ready to announce them in just a few weeks, but I'm helping with the architecture and design and development of two different companies, both in this very, very unique space that are not in food. And again, the food part's been amazing for both the consumers and for the companies that are growing that way. But both of these, one's an entertainment space and one is a shipment space. And it's just so unique in franchising, but they've got this incredible model to offer, and we are going to help franchisees live an incredible life and build an incredible business that, quite frankly, some of the volume and the revenue that you can do in those types of businesses is really substantial. So I think this 10-year shift that we're going to see is continued growth in the QSR space. I think franchisors are for sure getting better. The CFA and the IFA are doing a great job with stuff. You guys are doing a great job at helping people understand and educate people on it. But we're going to start to see other industries enter into the space. And you're going to start to see trickles of that. We have seen some trickles of it. You can see more and more of it coming through. And as people see that, it's going to be, okay, I didn't really understand franchising. I run a warehouse company or something else. I didn't really understand. I kind of thought it was a Tim Hortons or McDonald's thing. Now I get it, right? I need to reach out and talk to somebody about this. So we're going to see a really strong shift on the franchising side of things. And some of the businesses I'm talking about are not small players from a revenue perspective, right? These are ones where, if you think about a business that is doing, $1.5 million or so in unit revenue, and they have the potential to do 150, 200 units in Canada, let's say, right? You're now starting to talk about some pretty substantial revenue, right, for that brand, let alone what happens when we add them into the US. And so there's a ton of potential with the side of it. I think the CFA and the IFA are both actually doing a really good job at making sure that we explain to politicians, what the role of franchising is, so that we can try and keep the laws as franchisor friendly as possible. Right? We're not always successful at that, but that's a big part of this. And I think we just need to continue to do this type of thing. Just educate people on it. Let people listen to it and go, man, I didn't think of that. That makes perfect sense. I need to reach out to Leanne to talk about, marketing, or Brian to talk about, the architecture and design of this thing. And because there are lots of resources out there for this now. And that's where we can help them all be super successful and grow their individual companies within the franchise.
Pretty good. I'm excited to hear about your other big announcements. And congratulations on your biggest announcement. I think you just made it today. Of course, this is not coming out for a few weeks, but making a big change. And so we actually are very excited to have you at Let's Grow Canada. And you're one of our keynote speakers. So before we go, can you give people a sneak peek about what you're going to talk about there?
Yeah, and thanks again for inviting me on to speak. It's I'm really pumped up about this one. So when we think about the group that's going to attend, so first of all, this is the first time that there's actually a franchise development, franchise conference set up in Canada that I've ever seen, and so that part of it's super exciting. And what I want to do is share a little bit about my story with people. But I want to add some color commentary to it and really show them some of the things that are good, but let them peek under the hood as well. And I'll give you one sneak peek to this. In 2019, man, we could do no wrong. we were on the front cover of magazines, and I was doing radio interviews all the time, and we were opening a new unit every 5 days. I mean, we were the golden child, right? We could do no wrong. But that's what the public saw, and it was real. But there's some stuff happening, kind of behind the scenes that was pretty tough to deal with, right? And so I want to share some of these stories and some of the war stories, because here's the reality. And I know we're out of time. I'm going to take up some more time anyway. It doesn't matter to me. But here's what happened. So leading up to COVID, right? We all went to these different networking events, and I'd say, "Hey, Leanne, how's it going?" "Oh, it's going great. Business is great." I'd say, "Yeah, business is great with us too." And it was all this great stuff that was happening, right? And through COVID, we all learned just to be a little bit more vulnerable. In fact, through COVID, we all of a sudden were having meetings virtual, but meetings in our homes. It's like I up until that point, I had never sat in my kitchen and had meetings in my homes, but I was doing lots of presentations throughout COVID to other companies about our strategy and our driver's seat and what we were doing. And so I was on like 2 or 3 times a day on different video sessions in my kitchen, in my house, right? And so it opens you up a little bit and allows you to be a little bit more vulnerable that way. But the reality was, the conversation we're having with people were real, and they were about health concerns, and they were about business concerns, and fear and this type of thing. And so I've shifted a little bit. And as we got back to the real world of networking events where you can go and shake people's hands and actually meet them in person, I've been asking business owners, what's your long COVID? So not the medical long COVID, but what's your long COVID as a business owner, right? Because business owners are tired, and business owners they've got war wounds, and they're frightened, right? And of course, there's regular everyday business stuff to deal with, short unemployment and increased costs and some things, et cetera. And so I'm actually having these types of conversations with people about what's your long COVID? And it's amazing what's starting to come out of people's mouths with that. It's like, yeah, you know what? I thought I'd be doing this for the next 15 years. I can't do it, right? And here's why, right? Or I just don't feel the same level of motivation, or I just don't like this part of it anymore, or this is the part that scares me now, right? And it's such an interesting dynamic. And so every business owner is faced with these challenges. There's no doubt about it, right? And so I'm really enjoying having that level of conversation, because it helps inspire me to be better. It helps me understand I'm not the only one in the boat that's had challenges or mistakes or things like that have happened. And so during the session that we're doing with Let's Grow, I want to talk about our incredible growth and all of the cool things we've done. But I want to give people a real peek under the hood, so they can understand that this is not just all glory days, right? We just haven't done everything right? We made some mistakes. Some of them cost us some money. Some of them cost us some time. Lots of them cost us some stress, right? And it's okay, because that's actually part of the journey. Because when you put that in perspective, that actually helps a lot, right? With understanding exactly what you need to do and how do we need to fail successfully, right? And so I think once we all understand that piece of it, and we have these real conversations, especially after a few beers at the after party events and things like that, those can be some really wonderful conversations. And so when we open up that line of discussion with people, it becomes a much more honest and productive way for us to grow the franchise business.
Amazing. Well, you heard it here first, folks. If you haven't booked your badge for Let's Grow Toronto, insert selfless plug. Book book your badge now. Tell us, last thing, how can people find you, Brian?
Yep. So always on LinkedIn. So it's Brian. Last name is Bazely, Bazely. That's the easiest way to find me. I'm super active on there, and lots of people sending notes, of course, when there's interesting things happening. So at any point in time, reach out. There's no such thing as me declining an invite. That just doesn't happen. And so I will connect with you on there. And as long as you're not trying to hawk goods, we will have a real conversation. We'll connect on it, and it's a great way for us to grow, a relationship from that side of it. But in all seriousness, if you're listening to this podcast and if you're able to make it to Let's Grow, I've been to lots of different conferences. This one's going to be very different, very unique. And these guys didn't even plug themselves properly on this thing. My God. So the only reason it's coming here is because it was an absolute runaway success in the U.S. Right, and so now they brought it north of the border. So anyway, pretty cool. You look at the lineup of speakers. You're going to learn some stuff about AI. You're going to learn some stuff about leadership and about operating and founding a franchise. Lots about FranDev, tons about franchise development, about the franchise journey, right? And I could talk for days just on that piece alone. And so come and attend. It'll be, without a doubt, it'll be two of the best days you spent this year.
Well, thanks for that commercial. That's awesome. We're very excited to have you, Brian, and excited to see you at Let's Grow. Thanks for coming on, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Thank you. That was great. Oh my gosh, such a wealth of information.
I'm very excited for his session at Let's Grow.
Yes, that was a really nice plug.
I know. We didn't even pay extra for that.
A testament to people enjoying it.
Yep.
It really was good. So tell us, Leanne, what did you learn from Brian here?
I thought the operationalizing culture was really interesting, especially for franchise brands. It's almost like you have to operationalize everything to become a franchise. And so culture is one of those kind of variables and flexibles and blurry lines, but I think operationalizing it is really, really an interesting concept. And I love that. So interested to hear more about that. I hope he talks about it more.
For sure. Yeah, no, and I like honestly, the leadership and communication.
Yeah.
So key with, when you have multiple franchisees and, some of the things he implemented, like, no texting and,
no, like, how do you even get away with that?
I guess if you set the standard from the beginning, right?
Right. Yeah. That's all you got to do is set your boundaries.
Yeah. I'm sure most people don't think of that when they're probably starting off, I guess.
Can I set that boundary with you? No more text. Texting only between 9 and 5 Eastern.
Don't let me cut you off. Anyway, so for those of you that are still listening, if you're still with us, if you like what you heard today, please leave us a 5-star review. Of course, it helps us grow. Subscribe to us on Spotify and YouTube. We'll see you in a couple of weeks with more unfiltered news and education from both sides of the border. In the meantime, here's what's up on the calendar in our final segment, Franchise Mingle, brought to you by the National Franchise Show. We have a couple of franchise shows remaining for the year. Or maybe 3, Atlanta and Jacksonville in October. And that's right, Los Angeles in November. If you're growing in any of those areas, reach out to me. FBR's Operations Summit in October as well in Denver. Ooh, that's going to be fun. Let's Grow, informative too. Sorry, it's not all about fun. Let's Grow Canada is, of course, happening in November on the 6th and 7th. We are taking registrations. Our hotel block is sold out, but we are trying to get some more rooms, and so there is still badge sales happening, so feel free to jump in and join us at Let's Grow Canada. You heard all about it from Brian. The Hello Mastermind retreat is coming up in December in Asheville, and then of course Let's Grow Dallas in February is back on the docket. Man, Let's Grow Dallas is kind of shot out like a bat out of hell. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
Very exciting.
Sponsorships are almost sold out. We still have a few left. Content is sold out. It is going to be amazing. And many other franchise shows, of course, next year. Leanne, take it away.
All right. This episode is brought to you by Architect, Franchise Assembly, Hello Mastermind, and the National Franchise Show. We'll see you all in a couple weeks.